From the 305 to the 303, this is TCSP. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Brian and the Casually Serious Band.
You one of the best and you got the best. The hottest podcast in the land, TCSP.
This is probably too much, I think. I don't know. We'll edit that later. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Casually Serious Podcast. How y'all doing today? Bobby Mack in the house, dude. It's so good to see you, man. You're everywhere. You're always following us, man. I appreciate that so much. We have got an awesome special edition today of the Casually Serious Podcast mixtape today. I've got a friend that we're going to bring in right now, and we've been friends for a long time. He was the first dude that I met in Austin, Texas, and there were a couple things that we bonded on right away. One of them was the Dallas Cowboys. And the other one was Kiss. And when I thought I was fanatic about both of those two things, I met this dude. And, he let me know that there were other people in the world, especially people from Texas, that were fanatics about those two particular things too. But today we have got the Record Stash Revisit. And what we're going to do with this show, we don't know right away whether it's going to stay on Thursdays at this time. It might hop around until we find a proper home for this lost animal. But regardless, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into sections of careers of artists, maybe go from the beginning, maybe take some of their maybe some better era times and focus on that. But with Kiss, we're basically going to start all the way from the beginning. And I would imagine stop sometime around the time they took their makeup off. Now, I guess you can call myself a purist for feeling that way. And I guess you're right. I don't necessarily love Van Halen without David Lee Roth. There are plenty of times and instances in music where when a band evolves and changes members, I sort of not jump ship, just go to another ship and swim to one. I don't know, whatever the case is. All I know is that I don't necessarily love the changes that can happen sometimes with bands. So anyway, having all said that, what we're going to focus on is Kiss. And like I said, today is going to be the first 3 studio albums all the way up to the first live record they did, which pretty much changed the fucking world. But before we get all into that, guys, I want to bring in a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, plays in Bifist, Shadowkeep. He was the bassist and creator of Drifter, Iron Maiden tribute band I was lucky enough to manage and book out in Austin, Texas for a long time. You met him when he was here with Jason McMaster doing the Iron Maiden versus Judas Priest Legends battle. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my brother, Stony Grantham.
Yes. Bob, how you doing?
You appear.
How you doing, man? And everyone out in the ether.
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for asking, dude. I'm good, man. I've been looking forward to this for a long time since we talked about it, man. We, I don't really know what the yes, nice, good stuff, man. I love it. I was actually doing some searching and trying to find some things around the house that were Kiss related, and I was actually in quite a shortage of stuff in terms of like coffee mugs and the usual kitschy stuff. Yeah. My friends always send me the most amazing Kiss things. My friend Jay sends me shit from all over the world. So I have like a lot of weird Kiss stuff, but I don't have a badass pint glass. So shout out to Stony for the pint glass, man.
Hey, that show was the Destroyer pint glass, but this is a Love Gun pint glass this time.
So we vowed to go to the very beginning of all this Kiss stuff and talk about the first few recordings, dive into some of that stuff, obviously talk about some of the tracks and things like that. But, before we get into that, what is it that got you into Kiss, man? I mean, we know how important it is in our life and has been since we were little shits. What is it that turned you into a fanatic?
It goes way back. I think I was in 4th grade and maybe 5th, but it was 4th or 5th grade. But This would have been 75 or 76. And kind of sounds stupid now, but this kid shows me instead of showing me a girly picture, he's like, hey, check this out on the playground, and he pulls this little white photo, like 3x3 picture, black and white picture of these four dudes in makeup, and he's like, it's a band, blah, 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 and I was just like,
it's a band. You had to explain to you what that was.
I wasn't into bands or music at all. I was a Dallas Cowboy fan and, whatnot, G.I. Joe or whatever, but it kind of left an impression on me, and within a year, I was really starting to pay attention, and it was obviously the makeup and as people get the gimmick, but first one I bought was with my own lawn mowing money was Kiss Alive 2, and it changed everything basically forever.
It's changed everything. It's exactly that kind of moment. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Like fucking world shift. And you were saying it wasn't even a Playboy, but I'll tell you what, it would be burned in your head just as much as the first naked picture you saw or whatever the case was.
Absolutely.
It's insane, dude. I get it, man. I was lucky enough to I guess my brother Bill was really, really hardcore into them. So I was able to kind of have that influence from him. He passed along all that. But by the time, let's see, I was born in 73. So was Kiss. You know what I mean? And so it took a while. I was like 8, 9 years old when I had to go back. And like you said, the very first record of theirs, I even laid my eyes on and was like, what is this about? Was Alive 2. Because back then, for all you youngins, you would open up a gatefold of a double album, and it would be a gigantic picture or something very worthwhile in the middle of it, and most of the time in Kiss's case, toys and all kinds of really kick-ass shit.
Right.
But that major explosion going on, if you will, in the background, this, if you will, right there behind me.
I was just about to refer to that.
That sucked me in, man.
77, I was 10. And I was at a store with kind of like a Kmart or a Woolworths at the time called TG&Y. And, my mom's getting groceries or whatever. So I wander off to everybody had a record what you could display back then. So I'm looking at the albums, walking along. And on the end of the aisle, there's crates, like just piled up. One like they just bought them, dollied them off a truck, and it was all Kiss Alive 2, dude. And
wow.
I knew about them already, so I looked at the cover, Gene, especially on the back, same as the front, and I was like, I have to have this. So I walked around the rest of the hour with my mom, with her buggy, and kind of trying to, put it in the basket, and she keeps taking it out, and I keep putting it back. I won the little fight, I guess, and that was it, man. The gatefold alone, without listening to it, blew my mind.
Yeah, that was definitely the catch, man. And I remember saying to myself, "Cool, this guitarist has orange hair, man. I've never seen that before." And I remember when I went back to start looking at some of the older pictures, I was like, wait a minute, why doesn't he have orange hair anymore? And I don't know how long it went before I realized that was the fucking lighting. But really, it was just the whole thing was like Gene's blood, just like it was. I was already a horror fan already, you know what I mean? And so like that's the kind of thing that triggered in me. I just saw this Fangoria like magazine cover and was like, holy shit, this is like horror music. I have to hear it.
Not to mention, Gene on that picture is the sweatiest human being in existence.
Yeah.
So there was that freakish thing even outside the blood and makeup. So yeah, same here, man. We're talking about Kiss Alive 2, but we're not really supposed to be talking about Kiss Alive.
Hey, you know what, man? I asked the question, so be it. If it was Crazy Nights for some reason, whatever, man. You know what I mean? It's
that was the gateway for sure, dude. And then I just kind of wandered around and kissed them after that for years,
Well, I know we had all of the records at that point, but for some reason, I don't know what it was. But Alive 2 was the one I pulled out that one time. I had definitely already pulled out some, maybe some Cheap Trick and, a lot of stuff that my brother, my older brother would have Boston and some of that other stuff. So I was just flicking through like amazing fucking music when I think about it, and landed on Kiss and was like, I got to hear this now and then that's when I started remembering the memories of like Cream magazine and Hit Parader start coming back, where I started almost trying to collect their image in some way, and
absolutely
don't have any of it now.
I got to say something about your story there, Bob. Is you're really lucky to have a brother with all those records already, because like I had one older sister, and she had like a bunch of 45 singles.
Right, Sean Cassidy.
Yeah, Elton John, and you know things.
My sister too.
I had no uncles, no brothers that were into heavy music, really. So the wheels were turning really slow in my youth. It would come from friends at their houses, their older brothers. She did filter me a few things down, like Ted Nugent, Blue Oyster Cult, Triumph, Van Halen, the first Van Halen album. But other than that,
huge. Those are huge bands too.
Yeah, great stuff to borrow from her. But by and large, it was like rock and roll archaeology. For me, I had to dig everything I eventually fell in love with.
And I'll tell you what, if that in fact was archaeology, then I was digging and finding very old bones in their debut album, because I remember going back and looking at that going, like what the fuck is wrong with this Peter guy's face in this one? And like how old, this must have been 50 years ago, like in kid ages, that was just like a lifetime ago. 5 albums can be the span of your entire lifetime, apparently, is what I thought, when in fact it's about 4 years in Kiss time. But I'm going to give some shout outs real quick to the folks that came. Bobby Mack always saying, what's up, Bobby? Thanks for joining today. I've got someone named Mo Zavala. Do you know who Mo Zavala is by any chance?
Not yet, but but welcome.
I was just curious because I think I had seen him like some of the things that you reposted or something like that from TCSP. So regardless, Mo, thanks for coming and hanging out. And Jay Mackin, as always, man, what's going on? Jay's saying that we were all Gene Simmons for Halloween, at least 10 times in my life for sure. I've got pictures all up and down my wall at my house in Miami of me and Gene make up for holding a Fender Stratocaster 6-string too, by the way. For some reason, it didn't matter as long as it was sunburst or something.
It was better than a couch cushion, or a tennis racket, right?
And I don't know if you remember this. Oh yes, at fairs getting face paint too, Jay. Good point. The last time I wore Gene Simmons makeup, Letty put it on for me.
What? Really?
Yeah, man. This was 2003, I want to say. Maybe 2003, 2004. I went to 6th Street as Gene Simmons in a priest outfit.
Whoa, I remember that. I think I remember.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And you dropped by the house, so
yeah, because I probably might have been able to do it, but I didn't have faith in myself. But
my better half could paint you up like Gene Simmons.
Did it good, man. I don't know how long I stayed out in it, and it was definitely a very weird thing. But I was a weird dude at that time. So, but at any rate, guys, let's get into it right now. Let's talk about the first album. Let's see the intro. Kiss debut album. So when I went back on this one, I remember being young and looking at it and going, "This is weird." But then I started hearing the songs and I was like, "Okay, some of these are on that Alive 2 album that I really like," and now I understand that. And now I started getting the concept because of Kiss that you put out a record and then you play it live in a concert. I don't know if I attached those two theories at age 8 or 9 or whatever the case might have been at that time. So that, we're talking about when we're kids, we don't really put that together. We know it all now. It's common knowledge, but it didn't make sense. I thought an album was just something that they cut live, like they rehearsed it. And then I don't know. What
all in the same room, one take, and there's your record, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
everybody thinks that at 8 years old or 9 years old. You can.
I guess so. But I'll tell you what, Well, you know what? I'll save that for Kiss Alive, because that was what I was getting to. But look at this track list. We start off with Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, Let Me Know, Kissin' Time, Deuce. We got the love theme from Kiss.
You do.
100,000 Years, Black Diamond. With the exception of maybe about 3 of those songs, I love that album. I eventually learned to love that album, and as I got older and I started getting more nostalgic, I realized what it was. You start thinking of like the beginnings of stuff. But what was your opinion of the album the first time you heard it?
Well, let me ask you a question first.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You said you started liking it or loving it later. It was, even though you probably didn't realize what it was at the time, was it the production, the dryness of it, and as compared to like Alive or whatever,
That's a good question. I think maybe there was a polish, because it was a studio record. Yeah, I think maybe, but I think I could probably have said that for anything that I went back and listened to after Alive 2 anyway. But there was something about that first album that did sound more of like a raw, like, let's record this one time and see how it sounds, and then they just put it on a record. You know what I mean? There was a garage bandness to it. Even though I didn't know anything about that at the time, I think you're right. I think that might have been it. There was just this raw, sort of in your face. And even though it was very rock and roll, straightforward rock and roll, it definitely had an edge to it for some reason. Maybe because I was staring at the album the whole time. I don't know.
True. Well, that's what we did, right? At that time, especially. Yeah. But when we're all really young, we don't really understand. None of us do really. I didn't understand production. What's production? First of all, no, probably never heard of it. I was wondering, why do these songs sound so different and slower than they do on Alive, right? But I didn't know why. But anyway, to get to the point, first album, like I said, I didn't really have it early on when I was young, but I went back as I got a little older, and like a lot of bands, man, those guys had some time to write the songs that went on that first album. So a lot of debut albums are strong in that regard, whereas they get kind of rushed and put under pressure in their sophomore and junior releases and stuff like that. So they have a longer time to develop those, as they're playing clubs and rehearsing a lot. They have a lot more time before debut albums, and it shows even in the Kiss debut. That shows, there's tons of classics that they probably played they still do for their entire career live.
Yeah.
From that one record, it is chock full of, again, Strutter, Deuce, dude, 100,000 Years. Come on, Black Diamond.
It's true, and I wonder, and I guess I would have to go back on that. Other than maybe Alive and Alive 2, like they would have to mix in some of their new material and take the old material on them. So as these set lists evolved, I remember. What the funny thing is? I think the first time I ever saw Kiss in concert, like a full concert on video, was Animalize. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Like I hadn't seen any like full concert videos of them up to that point.
Well, there really weren't any. I mean, it's not that you were missing the boat or anything. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think there was anyway. Nothing really existed. I mean, they sure as hell weren't going to let Winterland or something like that bootlegs out of the closet at that time. So.
And that's crazy too, man. I remember Winterland was one of the most sought after footage right at the time. I was living in Austin, Texas, actually. I was going over to my friend's house who had LimeWire, and I was like, please, I have to get this Parasite video clip. And he's like, what the fuck's up with this? What's with the Parasites? And I'm like, dude, it's a Kiss song, dude. Just fucking download it for me. And it would go 3 days, and then click, it would disconnect.
Oh, really?
Somebody was on the other end, like going, and then right when it was about to download, they would like cut it off.
Wow.
Yeah, so. But that's like, it was black and white footage of Kiss, you know what I mean? And I think maybe when I was younger, I thought the album, since it was black and white, it was just such an old album that it was like in the black and white era. I think that's sort of how I equated all that, because, I was still young enough to have a black and white TV in my house when that was going down. I was just like, oh, this is weird, man. But
may as well have been 1940, right?
Seriously, dude. So what do you think your favorite song is on this album?
Well,
it's tough, dude. I know. I put you on the spot like I did, making you choose between Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, but try.
I gotta say, man. Well, what are we picking two here? I'm gonna have to go with Deuce and 100,000 Years.
Yeah, I was maybe gonna grab Deuce on that one, but I didn't. I think 100,000 Years and God, maybe Cold Gin. For just that one line, the cheapest stuff is all I need. It's just like because there was in between all the very straightforward Beatles-esque rock and roll that they were playing for us. The only thing that I think that made it edgy for us as the fans was looking at them, because if we were to just never have seen Kiss and maybe just even started focusing on their Wicked Lester stuff, we would have been like, well, these guys are just some, sort of hip rock and roll band.
Kind of it wouldn't have been nothing out of the ordinary. It would have been like, hey, I kind of like it, or I don't, or, it wouldn't have been like, oh my God, did you see these guys? Because you can't see it while you're listening, like that.
Right.
So, but I mean, I think it was solid rock and roll for the time. Let's put it this way. I was thinking about why people were made fun of or ridiculed in the 70s by older kids for not just for liking Kiss, but if you're 14 or 13 in 1974, and your older brother and his crowd they're all buying Led Zeppelin albums and Alice Cooper albums and stuff like that, Jethro Tull or stuff like that, Black Sabbath, okay? The last thing you really want to do is be that kid that goes over and gets that one album by that one band that has clown makeup on. At the time, let's face it, they only had that one record sitting in the bins, right?
Yeah.
We all know from history that it didn't sell well. And I was thinking, why didn't it? Because that's an attention grabber, right? The cover.
Yeah.
I would think that, when you're 13, you don't want to, the last thing you want is ridiculed.
Right.
So I was putting myself there in those kids' spot at that time and thinking, who knows? I may have walked over and grabbed Zeppelin 4, even though I wanted to buy that first Kiss album because of the cover. I don't know if I could have taken the heat in 1974 either.
Taking what came along with it, yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I think that was part of the reason it didn't sell, because it would definitely have garnered attention on the shelves, just from the cover alone. So
I'll tell you what,
I'm
your
surprised.
generation gets the credit for taking all the shit. So my generation could just walk into an accepted band, whereas you guys were the ones getting somebody's telling you, oh, they suck, and then 2-3 years later they're actually a fan.
We died for your sins, right?
Yes, you were definitely the lamb for sure. But you know what? Hey, let's take a quick gander at this clip. Let's see how long we can get away with showing this. That's audio, so maybe we'll be all right. I don't think you'll hear vocals very well. So that was their rehearsals. That's 1973.
I was about to ask you,
That's the Loft.
They didn't get Ace Frehley till 73. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and it's funny because that's like sort of a very the picture that's on that video is them just in whiteface, because they had yet to even start coming to character with any of that. I do believe that is the year, yes, which is when you hear it, you actually hear Paul screaming because they don't have a PA yet. They don't have, so he's just screaming to like the 6 people in the loft that they're hanging out with. Woo! And like, if you listen to the rest of that audio, and I don't really know if I'm going to get hit with copyright for any of that, so I don't want to take too much more of it. But if you go and listen to that, it's actually a rehearsal for what they're going to become. It's quite an amazing recording, if I'm being honest. I think Delaney was actually the one recording that, because he would sit in the back and videotape it and record it, and then let them know what their choreography was. I think he was the first one that noticed that Paul itched his head a lot.
Yeah.
So
they were very lucky to have Delaney at that time, really, and to have him involved too.
Yeah,
made a huge difference, man.
That guy was basically their style coordinator.
Yeah, and their performance coach, all the above, man.
Yeah, was he he was in a relationship with Aucoin at that time, right?
I believe he already was, yeah, or he was a little later, but he was obviously around, and I think you're right. I think he was involved with Aucoin by that time.
Which is kind of crazy too, because I don't know if he was openly gay at the time, but it didn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like, it went through this time where everyone was cool, 60s and 70s, and then 80s, and I guess AIDS had a lot to do with maybe the stigma or whatever, that, but it was never an issue with them, man. Delaney would be fucking driving them around all over the place, man. All the stories we know about him, he was definitely a party monster too, dude.
Man, and Coin too, I had no idea, not that it matters, but look what he did too for Kiss. He did a hell of a job in the manager seat.
Yeah, he basically put Kiss on his credit cards, and floated them throughout the first tours that they did, which was pretty. That must have been pretty tough, man. I mean, he was going into debt and been paying them back after the tour was massively successful, the second time around, and which is a pretty amazing little situation, man.
Going back to the debut album, like I said, those songs Strutter, 100,000 Years, Deuce, Nothing to Lose, even I love that song. It's got a really bad message.
Well, bad. I don't know what I mean. What do you think is bad? I think really at that time, parents already hated them. Churches already hated them. So why not talk about trying to have sex with someone in their butt?
It's not bad in a way of, it makes me laugh. It's hilarious, actually, if they just write a song about that. But
what was the other? No, I'm trying to think. There was one I was just listening to. What is it where Gene Simmons is like, "So you like the meat?" The selection of meat, or what was it? What song is it?
The selection's looking fine as I move on down the line. It's like he's at a buffet of women. None of that would fly now, right? None of it.
Look, man,
they're so sexist, and
holy shit, dude.
I find nothing funnier than that, because they were so blatantly over the top with it, dude. And they weren't even doing it as a joke, like we would now. Maybe, they believed what they were talking about.
The tongue was not in cheek, literally, with that band. It was in your face. I love it too, man. When I listen to a lot of these early, they just kind of slid it under the radar, and I think maybe they were even able to play a lot of it on radio because they didn't get the innuendo and they weren't saying fuck or shit or anything like that. So we're just like,
dude, they played Nothing to Lose on national television in '74.
You're right.
On the what's that daytime talk show?
That was Mike Douglas, right?
Yes, and you had probably at least 10,000 housewives saw that at like 1:30 in the afternoon. And that's the song we're talking about. Primetime national television. I guess nobody really paid attention to the lyrics, but I find that hilarious, man.
Yeah, I you know what? I think it's worth shining a light on, Stony. I want to thank you for that. Let's go ahead and check this out real quick. Before I had a baby, I didn't care anyway. I thought about the back door. I didn't know what to say. But once I got a baby, I tried every way. She didn't want to do it, but she did anyway. Yeah, that's
babe, you've got nothing to lose. Yeah, like I said, I just find it hilarious, really.
Yeah, they didn't care, and I think Role Models was one of the first movies I saw to like shine a light on the fact that anytime they used the word love or kiss, it was probably fuck or dick would be there's interchangeable. Love gun, obviously, things like that. They were able. I think that was the first time I saw it because they actually had a kiss segment in that movie. That was the first time I heard anybody kind of explain that. He was like, "Yeah, man, you're gonna love this band, Kiss. All they talk about is their dicks." And they played Love Gun. He's like, "It's all a song about is So basically, they went in. But yes, it's really the beauty of the innuendo that they were able to pass by because Gene was such a fucking massive perv, dude.
True, and it's also a cool look at the time in which it was happening. People weren't hypersensitive about anything. It was all rock and roll. It was all good, and let's have a good time. And don't be so offended by everything. Kiss couldn't even exist in this climate that we're in today. I don't think. I mean, starting the way they were writing songs and lyrics.
Well, again, I think we're talking about what Kiss did to change the world. There was a lot of things that they did, but they definitely were one of the bands that were able to slide innuendos and still get mass appeal. I think everything kind of happens in sort of succession like this. Like, obviously, we couldn't do now what we did then because we've learned now from what we did then. You know what I'm saying? But there's just, you can't even have a record industry now.
That's true. And of course, they weren't the only ones doing it. Led Zeppelin were talking about squeezing their lemons and things like that.
Just ran down the leg, indeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's been around. Lucille likes to ball. That goes back to the fucking 1950s, man.
Yeah, so, you're right.
It's always been there in rock and roll, but I just kind of found it funny how Kiss did it as good as anybody else did, and always got away with it as well.
And sticking his tongue out your face and shaking his dong in your face and it's just at some point you had to be like, it was just like overload for any like Christian mom in like 1978. It was just like, holy shit, the fucking apocalypse is happening right now. There's no way like these kids are they're gonna infiltrate my children.
You're either
in some ways
like that. You're either repulsed or it made you laugh. Those are the two camps you had to be in,
And I think if you had a sense of humor, you were more likely to fall into this Kiss camp than you were somebody who was, shocked or pissed off or like, taking a religious stance on it. There's no way to conform to that, but which is pretty crazy.
Well, that's what rock and roll is built on, is offending the church, the parents, and your own parents, and everybody else, and teachers, and that's the ground it's all built on anyway.
Yep. And these guys definitely did that. Let's see if we can't get a little audio here.
Wow.
I know a thing or two about her. I know she only made you cry. Off the street beside her. But when she walks, she'll pass you by. Everybody's looking good. And the lady knows it's
Very Gene Simmons heavy on that last part right there. But you can hear.
Is that another rehearsal recording? Or
that's the Daisy.
Ah, the Daisy. Okay.
The Daisy. So that is what I believe what us Kiss fans are going to call one of the, if not the earliest Kiss performance that was recorded. Yeah. So that was 1973, the Daisy, which I believe was Amityville.
Amityville, you're correct.
Yeah. And so that was the first one. When we're it's easy for us to talk about it now, but when we're talking about, let's say, a fan who is listening to Creatures of the Night going, man, I wish I could listen to some of that real early shit. There's no way you could have gotten your hands on that bootleg. If you did, you had to know somebody who knew somebody. Like that Kiss Vision shit didn't really come out until really much later than it should have, because the Kiss Vision stuff was just bootleg stuff that fans wanted to keep for themselves. They didn't want it to get out. They certainly didn't want to get back to Kiss because it was a bigger deal.
Kiss certainly didn't want it out either.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame them for it either. I mean, if you want to put out a product, you want to put your best foot forward every time, right? So, but yeah, that was a hardcore fan thing. As far as the first album goes, also an important matter is that song. If you bring up the track listing again, if you can, what is that? Kissin' Time, dude.
Oh yeah, the contest.
Not even supposed to be on that record, and it wasn't on the first pressing. And their manager,
why'd they add that?
who was there's actually a what's his name at Casablanca?
Neil Bogart.
Neil Bogart talked him into recording it. Promised it would be a one-off single type, promotional tool. So they said okay, and then when the second pressings of the first album hit the market, that fucking song was on their record. They had nothing to do with it. It was all Bogart doing that, and I think I would have strangled him if I was Kiss at the time.
Well, wasn't it directly attached to that Kissin' Time contest that they had in Florida?
That's the whole reason for that they even recorded it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're supposed to die and go away after that, and
yeah, because that was a cover, right?
Yeah, of a 50s, old 50s song.
Of course.
The Jandales or something like that. I might be wrong.
Wow.
I'm sure I might be wrong on that. But anyway, he almost completely double crossed him and just threw it on the next pressing of their album. It's been on there ever since.
Well, I know that there was a lot of weird things when you started getting into the dynamic of being with producers and other people other than themselves that had other ideas. I know that the song, what number was it? Yeah, Love Theme from Kiss was, as most of us know now, was originally recorded under the title Acrobat, and Kerner and Wise, Richie Kerner and Kenny Wise, I think was their names.
Yes.
They're the ones that basically told Kiss, in Europe, love themes are really big right now. I don't know why I'm doing this with the cigar. I don't really.
Dude, you're probably more accurate than you think.
Right. But, yeah, you see, but they're huge over in Europe, And so I think it was one of those things where they were like, we're not Acrobat. What the fuck does that even mean? Because even Gene said, for all intents and purposes, that song could have been called, Licorice, and it wouldn't have made a difference. It's just some weird musical thing that Gene. Half of it was Gene and half of it was Ace, and they just came together. It was like a weird riff that had a sort of a weird time change. And, Kerner and Wise told them that love themes were huge, and so they wind up calling it Love Theme from Kiss.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's crazy, huh?
As far as who told them. How's it, Bob? Love themes are big. And
listen, you don't know about the big city, kid. Yeah. I think
on the other podcast a while back here, you make a metal album, it's got to sound like this, see?
Apparently, that's one of the characters I have in my head from the 70s. Yeah. An old, sweaty, greasy fucking guy with a cigar in his mouth, just making 99% of your record royalties, and he's just banging hookers and stuff on your dime. Yeah, that's what I think of.
And he's perpetually talking you into really bad decisions all along the way that only line his pocket.
Oh man. And I remember as we're going back, sticking with the first album. I mean, I know Sean Delaney is also the guy who was very instrumental in when he was watching them in their loft, telling them, because I think he caught Gene and Paul kind of doing this sway thing back and forth, and that's when he said to them, "Listen, you all have to do sort of this choreography, and I'm going to show y'all how to do it," which would have been golden to see Delaney out there with that fucking mustache. Like, let me show y'all how to get this down, like. Because he was definitely, like we said, the style guy with them, but he got them to choreograph that, at least 2 or 3 of them. A Cold Gin, 100,000 Years, right? If
I'm not mistaken, too. They were kind of like, at first, no, we don't want to do that. It's kind of a choreography, But when he actually showed them what it looked like on film,
yeah,
they were like, "You're right, man." They couldn't argue with it. It worked.
That's the shit that I want to see. And I know probably there's a lot of Kiss fans out there saying the same thing, because we've already seen all that you can see. There's no really, if you're a diehard Kiss fan, the stuff I'm showing you right now, you've probably seen in some way.
Ad nauseam.
But we do not. We have never seen video footage of any of those loft rehearsals. And I don't know if they said Delaney. Delaney might have, because I think he passed away, right? Isn't Delaney passed away? I think
he's been gone.
I think he took that with him. They don't really know where it is, but
well, dude, if you. Oh, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think Sean Delaney, if I'm not mistaken, actually did another version of Too Many Mondays that Wicked Lester recorded. Because I think he wanted, I think he was a musician too, but didn't Kiss get the studio time for the first record by banking it from being in Wicked Lester?
As far as I know, you're kind of right there. The studio owed them some time.
Yeah.
And I think it was either from Wicked Lester or even jingles that Paul and Gene would go in and do jingles, vocal jingles for commercials and stuff like that. And I believe they actually owed Kiss some hours, which they did late at night when they could get more bang for their buck, I believe. But going back to what you were talking about Delaney saving things like that. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know the insides, what Delaney had or kept or what even what he was thinking, but you have to imagine at that time that nobody knew Kiss was going to actually, besides explode, even make it.
Yeah,
they're probably doing what most people were doing, is re-recording over existing tape constantly. Like we did when we were kids and stuff.
Yeah,
that's day in, day out stuff that they were working on. So I would be shocked if any of that exists as far as the filming and the rehearsals for performance and choreography and stuff like that. I'd be shocked if any of it exists,
Yeah, that sort of does suck, but and I think it was also sort of a slap together thing. They did it really quickly. I know that with their manager at the time, he basically said to him, "Look, give me a chance, give me a couple weeks, and if I don't get you a record deal, and so he was able to parlay that record deal because they had studio time already. So, like it was sort of like a 50-50 chance, and like, let's hurry up and get this out. It was very much a demo, I think, that album.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely the raw Kiss. Speaking
of the demo, which we were talking about backstage before, they were able to talk and available Eddie Kramer into producing their demo, which I've heard even from the members themselves that it sounded superior to what the debut album actually did when it came out.
Yeah.
So apparently Kramer's unavailable or booked, or whatever.
I don't know what that was the story about why he couldn't do that, because he could, and then he couldn't for some reason.
Right. Or maybe as we've said, Bogart didn't want to spend the money on Eddie Kramer, because he had a hell of a track record going already with Hendrix and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. So
that is crazy.
Anyway, regardless, I've heard they prefer it to the sound on the production on the first album. But
well, there's definitely a progression, and along with progression, along with that theme, let's get into this.
Hotter than hell.
That was kind of that's a crazy album. I remember not hearing this album a lot, and I think I have the German version of the CD up right here. Yes, I do, right there.
Oh.
With the different S's, because they didn't really like that shit back then.
You will not support the S's yet. Yeah.
So here we are with Kerner and Wise again. Kerner and Wise, and we're they've got a lot of different music on this album. I don't think the second side was listened to anywhere near as much as the first side was for me. So I'm very well versed in the first 5 of these, especially Parasite, which is my all-time favorite Kiss song. But all the way, watching you, yes, but Mainline was actually something I didn't hear a lot either. Coming Home and Strange Ways was just one of those deep cuts, man. But it was the progression, the production was definitely different on this album.
Well, I got to say on this, I mean, I'm not with you on this album as far as what you're talking about, but when I was really young, like you're talking about, when I was maybe 10, I didn't listen to entire albums. You know, I picked a couple of songs, maybe like you said, the first side, and then I would play something else, and then I'd be like, "Ooh, let's listen to those first 5 songs again." You know,
yeah.
I didn't digest entire LPs at 10 years old, so I know exactly what you're referring to. I didn't really digest this whole album till I was a lot older, but I loved Hotter Than Hell. I like the way the production murkiness makes it feel, at least, like a much heavier record than it may be. If you cleaned up the production real, you know, really clean, like, I'm not sure if it would come across as dark and heavy as it does because of the production. You know, a lot of people don't like the production on Hotter Than Hell and fault it for that, but I think it lends it a huge charm that's all its own. It's no other Kiss album really sounds like that, and because of that, I think it, like I said, I think it actually lends something in the positive column for at least for me. You know, it almost feels like you're listening to an early Sabbath album or something like that. And so I think it just feels heavier, you know, and I love that murky sound they've got on that.
Between Parasite and Hotter Than Hell, those are two of the most wicked guitar intros for that band. Because, you know, I obviously, since I'm younger, you know, I'm growing up into harder music a little bit at this point. You know, the Metallicas and stuff are going to start rearing their head around 86 and things like that. And I'm already a Kiss freak by that time, but it's just I'm looking for something heavier when I'm going back. As I'm getting older, I'm listening to current Kiss, but I'm going back too at the same time. And I'm like, oh shit, man, like this fucking Parasite song is so heavy, dude. And it's matching up to some of the heavy metal I started listening to. And you know, I think Hotter Than Hell is a sick fucking riff, dude. Like it's a sick riff, man. It's so good. And the drum, like it's such a punch, dude. Yeah. When I was, well, I'm not going to say I was, you know, I'm not old enough to have been there from the beginnings, you know, like the first album and on, but I was already a Kiss freak while it was still happening in the 70s. Yeah.
At that time, not only forget Metallica, Iron Maiden didn't even exist yet. When I'm sitting at home listening to Kiss, you know, Priest and Rainbow and UFO and some other, you know, obviously Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, Deep Purple. Yep. That all, you know, Alice Cooper, that all existed, but you know, if you're mowing lawns for $8 a week, you're not going to have a lot of records sitting in your room, anyways.
Right.
But I remember thinking the same thing, even about, like you were talking about, comparing, you know, heavier stuff coming along the line to, you know, to their live albums. You know, I was just comparing their own live albums compared to their earlier studio output. And even that was much heavier and more energetic, you know? Yeah. I hadn't even discovered Priest yet, Judas Priest or that stuff yet.
Which is crazy, right? To think of that evolution.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's give it a listen, huh?
Do it to it.
This is from Winterland, 75.
Come on! You look hotter than hell. I'm dressed in satin and lace. I looked at her and it was just too clear. I had to get on the case. I said, lady, oh lady, can I take your house? Just so much with you. I take you all around the whole wide world. That's all that is meant to do. Hotter than hell. The note she's on to read your doctor.
I heard somebody refer to Ace's costume as the pizza slice costume.
Oh,
The big pepperoni pizza thing that he's got. I was like, that's genius. That makes so much sense. Like,
that is
totally
great.
get that.
With the polka dots on it or whatever.
Yep. But there's just something about it, man. Obviously, Parasite, that and I saw Ace Frehley a few years ago, 2 years in a row with my brother out here at a place called Oriental Theater, a very small place with his band, and that's what they're waiting to hear him play that. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a riff that it's gone through time and stayed in people's heads. Like, I think this shirt is from when you and I saw them. When we saw them, I think it was one of the farewell tours in San Antonio.
Like 2000. 2000.
Yeah, 2000, I think is what it was. And Ace was doing like this medley of guitar riffs that he was going through. And then when they got to Parasite, I remember the crowd just blew up. And I'm like, that's how hard that riff has stuck. And it's a weird song. The lyrical content is kind of, I don't know, stupid, I guess. But like,
it doesn't really mean anything. As far
as it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like I said before, if you have studs on your wristband, you're right. It doesn't really matter.
And at that point, that Winterland was 75. They had obviously gone on tours by that point. They took Rush with them for Rush's very first tour. Obviously some other bands, Uriah. There's a lot of bands that they were playing with that were just like, they probably didn't want to open up for them, but then they realized they did. And I remember Paul talking about Bob Seger in southern states like Florida, that they would hear the crowd going absolutely wild for Bob Seger, and some of these other bands in these southern states, and that would make them go, shit, now we've really got to go out there and, you know what I mean? Like, they warmed it up, but they warmed up a southern state. We got to go out there and fucking win these guys over, like Jacksonville, Florida or something in 1974. Like, whoo.
You're talking about Kiss themselves, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. They and plus they're kind of up against it from early on, looking the way they did.
Yeah,
a lot of those southern audiences didn't take to them right off the bat. They had to literally come on and put that boot up the ass as hard as they could, basically.
The same old cliche: is it woman? Is it man?
Exactly. Yeah, there's some great songs on Hotter Than Hell as well, dude. Again, they may have had some of those in the pipeline from from around the first album, the time of the first album. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because this is 2 years difference, right? They put 2 albums out basically in a year span, right?
Well, yeah, that's the thing about Kiss, man. I'm going to go on a little tirade here on the haters and trolls that have always, and it even goes back pre-internet. People that put Kiss, they like to put Kiss down. Kiss is trash. Kiss aren't talented. Their music's crap. Well, Alice Cooper said something once when he said in a direct quote, "You can have all the explosions and makeup and tricks and effects and gimmicks that you want, but if you don't have the tunes, it doesn't matter. It's not going to stick long term. You're not going to have long term success." So there's obviously Kiss had the tunes. There's something to be said for that. A lot. Gene and Paul were good singers, and they knew what to do. They, like I said, they were doing jingles for dog food and furniture sales and stuff in the studio.
Poo.
They sang really well together.
Yes.
They would sometime in the same songs take individual verses and choruses and do it together. And yes, their blueprint and some of their idols were the Beatles, which is McCartney and Lennon did that really well. The dual vocal thing.
Yes.
And if you outside of rock bands, when you're going into soul and Motown and things like that. Of course, there's great vocalists that work together like that. But hard pressed to show me another rock and roll band besides the Beatles and Kiss. I'm sure there's some out there. Okay, the Beach Boys. They had a great vocal collaboration all the time. Or Simon and Garfunkel. Well, those aren't really rock bands. Show me a rock band that had that Gene and Paul McCartney kind of Lennon vocal thing going on. There aren't really that many at all come to that spring to mind. With that being said, no, I'm not comparing Kiss as songwriters to the Beatles.
I certainly didn't think that's what you're doing, but yeah, for the audience, we might need to say that.
As far as the two, vocalists in the band that worked that well together, Zeppelin had Robert Plant. There was no backup vocals in that band, even in the great Judas Priest. It's just Rob Halford, Black Sabbath, Ozzy. Name whoever you want.
I will say one band. I think
Rock and roll.
Michael Anthony definitely added to whatever David Lee Roth was doing. But I don't think it's like magical what you're saying. But I do think maybe Anthony was there in more of a helpful situation.
He was Dave speaking it, right?
Yes.
Well, he was only just he was great, but he was doing backup vocals.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't doing verses.
Yeah, he didn't have a song. He didn't have every other song or anything like that. Yeah, you're right.
Name somebody like Gene and Paul besides McCartney and Lennon.
That's true, man. Who have like hits for multiple singers.
Mick Jagger was he's the guy. Alice Cooper, Deep Purple. None of them had this kind of symbiotic Lennon and McCartney thing going on. So that's one thing I'd like to point out about why Kiss isn't trash. Because they had a couple of good singers in the band, and that really elevated them. They wrote some good songs too. They didn't write. Who writes all good songs? There's any album you listen to by any artist. There's there's some that are okay, and there's some that are great. And
right.
As far as anybody that they get a lot of hate, but I challenge anybody. Hey, if you think you're so cool, write a song better than Love Gun, or write a song better than I Stole Your Love.
Oh,
I mean, they're not the greatest. I'm not preaching here because they're the greatest songs ever written.
Dude, those are two great songs.
They're pretty damn good songs, dude. And I think Kiss, aside from the music too, Rush, for example, you mentioned that they toured very early on. In fact, the beginnings of Rush, they supported Kiss. And of course, Rush are at a higher level. They're technicians as musicians, right, than Kiss are. Anybody would be a fool not to admit that. However, they, if anybody's seen, Beyond the Lighted Stage about Rush?
Yeah.
They actually give props and put Kiss on the pedestal for
sure,
showing them how to work hard, because Kiss was working harder than any other band at that time. And if you imagine not just working harder than all the other bands to give you your money's worth, but they were having to go in 2 hours pre-show before working harder than anybody else and apply all that makeup and costume.
Yeah,
that just takes it on a whole different, almost a mind-blowing level. Not to mention the fact that they're releasing 2 albums every year in the 70s on analog tape, which is now most bands struggle to put out an album every 1 to 2 years. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's a digital age now. You can record an album in your bedroom, for God's sakes, if you need.
Yeah.
Kiss was putting out an album about every 9 to 10 months from 73 to 80? And touring every single cycle until around 80. So that's just in addition to, hey, these guys work really hard and have to put all stuff on and write songs and record 2 albums a fucking year. So if you're, whatever you want to say about Kiss is trash, go say it somewhere else, because I'm not fucking interested in hearing it,
Yeah, so we've got 20 songs that were written. Well, we don't have to count Kissin' Time in there. But we got 20 songs, give or take a couple, that were written in pretty much the same time frame. They're copywritten, both 1974 is what this says, and so is this 1974, obviously. So I have never put out one hit song. You know what I mean? Like you're in the, you know what I'm saying? Like you're right. You can speak more. So
I put out songs. I wouldn't call it. Well, okay. Look, there was no hits off those 2 Kiss albums either. You know, none of them.
Yeah.
None of them had airplay.
But that goes back to what you're saying too, because with Rush, yeah, they were better musicians, but a concert, they're not selling you their album at a concert. They're selling you the concert experience at a concert. So exactly. Kiss was better than everybody at the time, no matter how fucking good that band was. Kiss was the live concert. So yeah, you might beat them in, Dress to Kill versus, Fly By Night or something like that. Like you might get that battle won, but in the concert realm, you're probably not going to beat them. That's just not how that goes.
I don't think anybody was at the time, and in fact, they were getting kicked off tours left and right as support acts.
Oh man, the shit between them and Aerosmith.
Didn't want to follow them anymore. Yeah, that goes on and on for Pop Seeger and everybody, man. Back in the day, So for a band that allegedly sucks so hard. Damn, nobody wanted to follow him, huh?
Right.
And it's the bombs and explosions and the boots. Well, it sure lasted a long time just to be bombs and boots, And
then Aerosmith's road manager got locked in a drum case for trying to I think they tried to either cut them off early or stop maybe have their pyro or something like that. They didn't want Kiss to put their pyro up.
Yeah. That was Road Crew did that, right?
Yep. That was some crazy shit, man. Well, let's look at some of these pics from back then, dude.
Look at that shit, dude.
I mean, and I love that original Ace face, man. That the big giant, like it was almost too big.
Yeah.
Look at that pic, man. Look at Ace.
Hey, listen, guys, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Go ahead and take that picture.
Another bottle of champagne.
That's these boots are hurting my feet. I'm only going to wear one.
Is that a disco ball or just some weird object?
I think it's just a mirror.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, this is the image. These are the images that lured me into this band. It almost was like, unless they were playing pop crap music like bubblegum disco shit, no matter what, I was going to love this band because of Gene Simmons.
Look at that, dude. That's the lean years, and they were hungry and yeah, dude, getting after it, man. And all of us were like 3 years old at that time.
Yeah, dude.
Give them some props too. I mean, hey, they were in the game pretty damn early, man. What do you think about that Peter Criss makeup on the first album?
It drives me insane. It reminds me it's very kabuki like. It's very like Japanese, like samurai kind of thing. I don't know what I'm going with, and the Japanese part is not what drives me insane. What drives me insane is the fact that I saw it much later, already evolved, and then had to go back as the first album, and be like, "What the f happened?" And then as I was older, I figured out the story about the guy.
I think I could live with it if the actual whiskers were right and that red thing under his mouth was gone.
Because even this is a very early version of all of that. The eyes stayed the same, but the whisker changed a little bit and
going down and instead of out and straight out. Cool look though. I love that, man.
Finn Costello, man, took some great pictures.
Oh fuck yeah! I was always obsessed with Gene's basses too. What a strange choice. Well, I guess not. It kind of fit his personality, but those Gibson basses back then.
Why was that a strange choice? Let me know. I'm part of your rhythm section, but I'm the drummer portion. So why is that strange?
Not a lot of people were used. I mean, what at that time? Well, for the last probably 20 years before that, and up to that, Fender basses are king, man. Most hits and albums where there's always there's a Fender Precision on it or a Fender Jazz, but let's face it, they wouldn't have looked so cool on Gene with all that get up as those black Gibson grabbers did.
I think that's what it is. I think that's exactly what it is, dude. I think it was like,
yeah,
it's almost like, if maybe he didn't care about what they looked like, it's possible these albums would sound much different.
That's true too, man. They had a unique sound to them. They didn't sound at all.
I can't imagine that they were great, but they had what they had, and maybe the studio did what they did to make it feel better or sound better to us. But
could
I
be.
mean,
they sound good in the studio though. I mean, I always thought they sounded pretty solid, pretty thick.
Oh, look at that, dude. That's such a great action pose. What, and how about this? Aren't Fender Strats all the rage at this time? What's up with the Les Paul? That's kind of another thing, right?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but I mean, it was in heavy use. Like Jimmy Page was using them.
Yeah.
And Leslie West and the Gibson Les Pauls and that they were using. Actually, Paul used much weirder guitars than Ace ever did.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because I think I saw he had a V at right, or wasn't Ace? Did Ace have a V? I forgot.
Paul did. Paul had Explorers, V's. He even had some weird other earlier kind of Gibson. I can't remember the models that they are.
Excuse me.
You know what? I love that.
The photo shoot, the
shirt,
orgy.
That shirt he wore there.
Oh yeah, it's like I think it's Japanese samurai kind of like.
He never wore it again.
No,
I think it wasn't his. I think it was
on loan.
Yeah, or like what do they call that when the studio or whatever loans you the clothes?
Oh yeah. Damn, look at that. It's like some fucking high school auditorium.
Oh yeah, look how ugly the curtains are, dude.
That fucking kit that Peter is playing is way too big for him.
Look at the bass drum. Look how big it is. Dude.
Oh, it's such a beautiful kit, though.
Again, the same. That's great right there, dude.
Pizza slice.
Yeah, pizza slice. I like how Gene's the hole in his thing is always off, kind of to the right. Yeah. Get that one nipple or whatever.
We get Paul drunk, dude.
Yeah, and locked in the car by Gene eventually. Yeah.
And this guy didn't help.
Well, also in that photo session, which is legend, Ace's face was fucked up from a car accident.
Yes, you are correct, sir.
Everything is superimposed on the cover, on the one side of his face. That they only did the makeup for half his face on that cover shoot.
Yeah, I don't know why that wasn't why that wasn't on there, but here it is. I'll get it up real quick now. There we go.
You are. Well, you can even see the stitches in his forehead right there.
Ace really loved fucking crashing cars, man.
Apparently.
Well, you know what? That doesn't really matter. I'm just going to get a new one anyway,
He was a crazy bastard, dude. God love him.
He drove Gene and Paul up the wall, though,
Yeah, I guarantee it. They certainly wouldn't drive with him. That's for sure, man.
Would you? Why?
No.
It'd be an adventure, I guess.
Even people who drove his car with him in it got in car crashes, right? Wasn't there at least one or two times where Ace was just on the fucking front seat with him, and they're bam, they slammed into a car.
Yeah, dude. It's awful. Actually, he's not a good driver. That's for sure. Better guitar player.
He really liked drugs and didn't care.
Really liked alcohol a lot too.
He liked alcohol a lot, which was usually the catalyst. Definitely.
I'm digging your photos, man, and your graphics, buddy. Really,
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, we're getting into that. I had to save a couple of them for this right here because I guess we can just jump right into it. Dressed to Kill. For me, Dressed to Kill is the Lost Kiss album. I don't know that we owned it. Or if we did, I just didn't see a lot. I don't know what the case. Something was just there was a lack of exposure to me to this album for some reason.
Well, that happened. Dude, that even happened to me as well when I was younger, dude. Was there any? Has it remained that way for you, or did you eventually get into it, or go back and check it out?
It remained that way because if I'm being honest, the songs I pull out of here, Rock Bottom for sure, even though they needed to cut that fucking intro in half. The Rock Bottom, She, and I don't know, Rock and Roll All Night. Really, I think maybe Come On and Love Me Too is a good one for me. But in terms of everything else, Ladies in Waiting, I didn't hear a lot. Love Her All I Can, I didn't love, but I think of Alive when I think of those songs. I do not think of Dressed to Kill.
Well, yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah,
I have to disagree with you on at least one thing, though. I think that intro on the beginning of Rock Bottom is probably the most beautiful piece of music Kiss ever wrote, in my opinion. That's just me, And I know Ace wrote it, I think, or Ace with Paul. But I want to say, I guess I don't know who they would argue about who wrote it. I wonder who got the credit for that. But
there's no way that there's no. I don't know. I guess it could have been a Paul thing because it's it's just simplistic.
I think Ace helped him because it sounds a lot like Fractured Mirror to me. Also,
okay, but they did borrow a lot of sounds and riffs.
Look at Wikipedia or whatever, but I think that's a gorgeous piece of music, man. And it's really unkiss-like and way ahead of its time, I think, And I get how a lot of people, and maybe even including you, say it goes on too long. It's too long.
It was a little long, but I love it. I learned how to play it on guitar. I love it so much.
Nice, dude. I think it's a weird coupling with the song Rock Bottom,
It starts off, but I think a lot of this stuff starts off kind of, there's a lot of songs, I guess, with them that kind of maybe start off happy, but thematically they're not really the happiest songs.
If I had to guess, I would just say it's a great piece and they were looking to throw it on something, that could literally be on the beginning of any Kiss song, because Rock Bottom is, like I said, is just a straight ahead. It has nothing to do with that intro.
Yeah, it is sort of a freestyle, I think. Maybe it was just like, check out this riff I came up with, and then they put it in there, like, we got to put it in there because it's cool. But
now I can understand, like, 11-year-old Bob going, that's fucking boring, why they should have skipped that or whatever. I get that, as I got older, though, it's just a beautiful piece, I think. In addition to that, on Come On and Love Me is such a great Kiss song, dude. It is. It's so good. I think it's probably my favorite thing on the record.
Paul wrote it, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense, man.
He's actually said since then that he probably couldn't write a song like that now. And it just poured out of him at the time. Well, I love She also. And
that riff is just good, dude. It's because we know that they're very rock and roll, but there's something that happens with Kiss when they start getting into sort of this deep blues, like dark blues zone that, like, I think a lot of us like. And there's a couple songs that definitely fall in that category. But whenever they change it up from something that's not normally Kiss, is when I think as a fan we're like, fuck, this is why we like them. Because they only play this music, but why is everything different all the time? You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense. They don't always play the same shit.
That's a really good point. Some were like dark and heavy, and some were just like rock and roll, straight up rock and rollers. And I liked how it may not have even been their idea at the time, but going back to the debut album, having the piano in Nothing to Lose.
They snuck a piano into about 3 of some tracks of ours. If we know that, but there's something about it that adds an ambiance sort of to some of the music. It definitely on Destroyer they used it too, but I found it pretty cool. There was, whenever I did hear it too, I never felt like, oh, that sounds whack. It's almost like, oh, that sort of needed that. Because when you take that out, I think it doesn't really. There's a reason why we add things like that are sort of out of character in songs, is because they add a dynamic to it in a blank spot of it or a shallow part of a song.
I think you're right too about being heavy here, straight ahead, high energy over here. They had a much wider palette than people really want to give them credit for. Also, in terms of style.
Theoretically, there were 4 songwriters in that band.
Yeah, which is astounding, really. When you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, how much stuff came from Ace trying to get a song out, but they didn't take his lyrics. They just took his riff. Or they just took like something he put together and they made it into a song as opposed to his lyrics.
And sang his songs for him because he was too gun shy to sing, which who can blame him,
well, he did. He definitely taught me one thing.
You gotta be attacked and you won't know what it is.
You had to do it, didn't you?
I love his rapping, dude. His just like New York style rapping. That guy, he needs to put out a hip hop album because it would fucking sell. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. But
that reminds
his delivery was different.
New York Groove is great too. I always love that song. And this is the speaking of Dress to Kill they dumped the White Kerner and Wise team.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not going to
They get.
I'm not going to jump on them or trash them. I think those first two albums sound. They may not have been what Kiss wanted, but they sound pretty good to my ears. And let's face it, Kiss also didn't really get what they wanted on Dress to Kill either.
Right.
According to them, Kerner and Wise weren't involved in that production at all. In fact, it was what's his name again? Bogart. And he didn't.
That's really weird. That's very weird. When I just saw the production credits right here on the bottom, produced by Neil Bogart and Kiss. And Kiss had their own production in this one as well, because I think they were probably at this point like, let's try it where the band is doing it. You know, we're having more input than a couple people.
You're right.
In evolution.
Kiss really produced the album, and Bogart paid for the studio time. So
that's what I'm saying. He got first credit because he put the wallet.
He's a producer, you know. But
I don't think Neil Bogart from Casablanca was not the guy at the fucking mixing board. I guarantee it, dude. He was not there. Not tweaking knobs, dude.
I think that it's a lot different in production from Hotter Than Hell, but it's not miles away from it either. It sounds a lot like the debut album in spots, production wise.
They probably had a safety net. There was something they were doing that was safe that they stayed with, and they didn't maybe branch out too far from it because it was Kiss's probably first foray into actually having a lot to say with what was going on in the production of this album.
You're right. And on the other hand, too, I don't think they really knew how to get the sound they were after. So they were, on one hand, they were playing it safe and you know, they were following that formula that they had started from the debut in Hotter Than Hell. But I also think they were grasping at straws. How the hell do we sound like a Sabbath or a, Heartbreaker from Led Zeppelin? You know, how do you get that extra oomph? I don't think they knew how to do it yet, or what they were looking for particularly, without going live, basically.
And we got, we got Rock and Roll All Night out of Dress to Kill, which, 2.5 minutes, roughly, a little bit more. It's crazy, but it's crazy how big it became, if I'm being honest, because really there's a lot of songs and throughout their catalog up to that point that are just as anthemic, I think, and just as big, and that you could have, ended a show with, because, I guess we're nerding out here, but at some point they started it with Detroit Rock City, right? And then I think during a live too, they went to Making Love to start off their shows.
They come out for anthems?
Their set lists.
Oh, well,
because their openings would change, but it would almost and undoubtedly end with Rock and Roll All Night after this album.
True, until it ended with Shout It Out Loud. However, that's just for the live album, or the second live album. Who's to say? I mean, were they still doing Rock and Roll All Night at the end of concerts after? Because their live stuff was a lot different from the live albums. I mean, as far as their set list goes,
Yeah, that's true, man. And
on the Love Gun tour, they were playing Kiss Alive 2. They were sticking other stuff in there as well, older stuff probably.
Yeah,
and newer stuff that's not on Kiss Alive 2. So who's to say? But it's definitely the first anthemic song, probably. Which is
big. It could. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's just crazy how it becomes what it becomes. And I guess maybe if they didn't close out so many shows with it and get everybody on board with it, then it wouldn't have become what it became. If it was just something in the middle, and maybe, I don't know, Dr. Love was what they closed out the show, which definitely would fit too in Gene's ego. But
you're right. What if it wasn't on a live? Would it have been a hit? No, probably not. It wasn't a hit, as it were, on the studio album before that, on Dress to Kill. So that didn't take long for them at all until the live version.
And I think if they if they had a button that they could push to add more crowd noise, they definitely did it during Rock and Roll All Night.
Absolutely.
100% that button was hit.
I think they did that on the whole album.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I listen to it now, it's a little fucking much. Just a little much. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way they're going the whole concert. They're not yelling.
Well, Kramer took the crowd noise from a Super Bowl and used that, dude, on a live.
It's beautiful.
That is pretty wild, man.
It's weird, wild stuff. You know what? Let's just jump into it, man.
Kiss Alive.
And again, mentally, I lumped this in with Alive 2 as because I think I heard Alive 2 first. Yes, I did. And then I went back to Alive and listened to that and was like, dude, this band's awesome. I can't believe how many songs they're giving me in 2 records, you know, and then, you know, add into all this other shit. And that's when I obviously started going back, and that was part of the moving back thing. But Alive 2 is my favorite, was my favorite, probably still is my favorite live album of theirs. But my brother always sold me on this and said, look, if you love Alive 2, great, but you need to give this album its respect to, because without this album, Alive 2 doesn't happen. And the things that you hear that happen on Alive 2 are because of what they did with Alive 1, which I assumed as a kid was 100% live, recorded in front of a studio audience, record and go and pressed on wax and given to me, and my little hands were listening to it.
Here's what happens at a Kiss concert, right? Is what you think when you're 11 years old. I agree with you on one thing, dude. Depends on your perspective and age. Because I bought Kiss Alive 2 first, so it was more special in a lot of ways to me than Alive was. Even though, you know, the whole world's gonna argue with us that Alive is the better album, and it is. It is the better album. You know, all these years later, it's probably almost no contest. The older I get, I realize that, you know, and give Alive the props it deserves. But Live 2 is what hit me over the head, and there's no changing that.
And the studio side to that album was life changing for me. All American Man was like, you know, is one of my favorite songs for sure. You know, Larger Than Life, dude. It's just, you know, I don't know.
The only weak link I think, and as a 10-year-old, I didn't know any better, but I think Rockin' in the USA is a little bit weak, you know.
Rockin' and rollin', rockin' and rollin'. It is a bit. It's too much.
It's a fun song, but I don't think it stands up as well. But yeah, let's get back to Alive, where we're supposed to be.
So Alive was the first time I got to hear Parasite live, obviously, and you know, and that it just definitely felt like a much tougher version. But you know, Hotter Than Hell, this version of Hotter Than Hell is going to be burned in my head for sure. Rock Bottom. It's just, I don't know, man. What are your favorite songs on this one? The versions that you love of these studio songs?
Well, to touch on what you were saying a minute ago, this was my second Kiss release I bought. So it's also pretty special to me. You know, it came again before I got to hear any of the studio output. I think the way this fucking thing kicks off, Deuce, is incredible. On Alive, man, just right off the gate, dude. Just it just hits you right between the eyes. Parasite, like you said, 100,000 years, man. Really, all of it. You can't go wrong with any of it. Yeah, I think that it's strong from start to finish. And little did we know that's the only remaining totally live thing throughout the album is the drums, right? Hate to rant.
Correct.
But we also did not know that at age 11 or 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah, they didn't. I think didn't Pete have a problem doing that, or did he not show up? I don't know. I would imagine he probably just wouldn't think it was cool.
No, his performance was good and good enough to. Cause, I mean, there's no click track. I mean, it may have been. You had to base the whole thing off something, and it was. Thank God, Peter turned in a pretty good performance, really good. And they doctored all around it, you know. Thank God he did.
Let's see about that. He's on, man. He's focused.
Yeah, dude.
She walks by moonlight. Oh, I really do. Enchanted starlight. Ever going home.
How about
That's
that?
such good footage, dude. All right, so when you listen to that, and since I can't play because it's a recorded album, and you listen to a live, this concert, Cobo Hall, was obviously where they said portions of that album were taken from. And there is such a fucking massive difference between what we just saw and what made it onto a live, or actually what they added onto a live post-production or post-concert. And I don't think I don't know how old I was when I noticed that, but I don't think it even mattered, because I think at that point it was already like an addiction. Like, I'm already a Kiss head, dude. It doesn't fucking matter.
At that age, we didn't know any of that anyway.
Right.
It's all about context. Putting what was going on during, the beginnings of Kiss Mania. Nobody knew any of that. That goes for all the bands too. To quote a good friend of ours, I'm glad they did it. I'm happy that they went in and fixed things. Otherwise, you would have had what we just heard as a double album, and that would be for all time. Which I'm not slamming what we just heard, but it's definitely not the official release, is it? That's a good.
So there's it's that studio magic, and again, it's part and parcel to Kiss. You're going to get a rock band, and you're going to get this, but you're going to get some other bells and whistles that they want you to have, whether you want to have it or not.
Right. And
they are definitely part of the industry that was churning out hits and making a lot of money for a lot of people who are motivated to do a lot of things. And it was just part of business and all that. It was the complete package with Kiss when it came to that. It was the.
When you said bells and whistles, I'm not sure if you're referring to this or not, but what other band, when you bought an album, stuffed a bunch of cool shit in it for you to give you not just what you got, but the whole bang for your buck was incredible from Kiss in the 70s. You get posters and tattoos and stickers and order forms and booklets. I mean, actual books would come in their fucking live albums that
dude,
ended up on my walls, obviously. But
if you think about how smart that was, because let's say you were just somebody who was like, let's just put this album out, and they're like, no, we want to put this cool pop gun in there too, and a color booklet of pictures, and they're like, it's going to cost a lot of money. They're like, dude, you're going to get that money back.
What other band gave you a tour fucking program basically that's what you were getting when you bought a live album? I can't think of another band that did that ever.
That's the truth, dude. That's true.
Or a giant poster to put on your wall. Okay, the other bands did that, but the Kiss did that and so much more. You always got it. But
I don't know how much they had to do right away with going ahead and signing off on merchandising, but I think they learned very quickly that that's going to be a thing, that this is a thing. And yeah, I know at one point it got out of control, but man, it didn't really matter, because I don't think there was anything I wouldn't have bought with their face on it, because I had most of it.
That's the thing. I guess they realized you'd have to be blind not to really, I guess, but their image and their makeup lent itself to just merchandising paradise, dude. So I mean, them or someone in their direct group realized that really early on, as soon as they could afford to do it. In other words, they probably had the idea to do it before they could literally afford to do it. But goddamn, what a perfect band to do a merchandising onslaught like that.
Seriously, dude. I don't know. They did it. They did it. It was. I guess most people will have you believe that they were the only people that did it, but dude, there were just as many like Dukes of Hazzard fucking lunchboxes and thermoses as, maybe not as many as Kiss, but they were in a market that it wasn't like it was just Kiss shit everywhere. It was Kiss shit among everybody else's shit.
Yeah, just Star Wars and Jaws too. Except, well, Hollywood knew how to do that.
Right.
In rock and roll, it wasn't so much of it was kind of a new thing when Kiss kind of started doing that,
It was definitely a new thing. Yeah, they broke a lot of ground with a lot of stuff, and when it came to slightly misleading the customer base for the benefit of the customer base as well as the company, they definitely led. They led in that. That was their game, and it is up until this point right now. They still do shit that
Starting
blows
with
my mind.
Yeah, starting with Alive, man. You also bought the record for the stuff that you thought you knew you were probably getting in addition. So it was always well worth the money you spent on it. You know.
Yeah, and then they had other things that were going out. Double platinum. They had a smart way of repackaging and recycling things that you have already purchased that you are still going to go out and purchase because it's brand loyalty, and I'd be goddamned if I wasn't loyal to that brand.
You said it, man. That's the best way to, some people drink only Coca-Cola. Well, I was really loyal like you were to Kiss, dude, back when I was really young, but and that shit lasts forever. It's like almost like your first girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever,
It's that first one, bro.
first kiss,
The first kiss, dude.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that involved in this band that is burnt into my head, man. Like, they have so many different trademarks, but obviously this is one of them. Like, I know that yell, that, oh yeah, like, it's just one of those weird things that I don't know. And that I know because I would yell it all the time to you at fucking Drifter shows for some weird reason. Yeah. And it was just one of my things that I love doing. And you and I both love throwing gene-isms into like regular societal situations. That was a lot of fun. Like,
life, yeah.
Like, what would Gene say right here? Like, get out of my way, bitch. Like, it's just, he was just such a sexist asshole. But yeah, we had a lot of fun with his personality throughout the years for sure. And Family Jewels let us in on a lot of that.
A highly entertaining sexist asshole, I might add.
Yeah, because
what is your favorite tracks on Alive?
I'm going to go right away and say Parasite, but if I have to move away from that, I think I really like this version of Hotter Than Hell and Rock Bottom.
Oh yeah, dude.
And those are heavy, obviously heavier riffs, and I dig them a lot. But I can't discount She either, because that version just seems really dirty and ding, ding, ding. It just seems super dirty. Obviously, it's dirty content, but I do like the dirty, grindy side of Kiss. It was always something that attracted me. Cool. The picture of Peter that I showed you earlier holding the fucking knife, like that's the version and mentality of Kiss I will always think about when I think about Kiss. Yeah,
I think there's not a bad song on Alive, dude. Okay, if I had to, step away.
Well, you mentioned one.
Well, Let Me Go Rock and Roll.
Right.
It's a classic Kiss song.
It is.
Is that on Dress to Kill, dude? No.
Hotter.
Oh, it's on Hotter Than Hell. Okay. I've never, it's just a standard straight ahead 4 on the floor rock and roll song, right?
2 fucking minutes, dude. Yeah, you get to your Burger King in time to get some food and go home.
I don't dislike it. It's kind of a cool toe tapper, It's
very straightforward rock and roll. Like, it doesn't deviate very far.
Ace rips. His solo rips in it.
He does. Yes, it does. You're fucking right.
It really does. So I guess it was probably a performance vehicle more for Ace Frehley at the time. I would imagine,
I love Ace so much, man. We always defend him, dude.
You should have brought up that one picture where he's falling down on stage. Remember that?
I wonder if I still have it, dude. Hold on.
Hey, speaking of that Dress to Kill cover, we didn't discuss that at all. That was O'Coin's doing, and Bogart maybe, because that suit Gene is wearing belonged to O'Coin, right? Bill O'Coin.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, cause it's so ill-fitting.
He didn't have one, is the way the story goes.
Ace looks superb, dude.
Yeah, dude, Ace looks bitch. So's Peter, man. This suave. Debonair.
So suave, dude.
I-
Scaring the young children.
what I'm wondering is that O'Coin's idea to do that cover for Dress to Kill, you know, or if Bogart had some say in that or an idea, you know, for that, because I don't think Kiss would come up with that on their own, given to their own, left to their own, you know.
This is a great reference book, Nothing to Lose. If nobody has read this yet, I think it has that answer in here. For some reason, I didn't recall it. There's also another really good book. These FAQ books, these Kiss FAQ. This is a great book. You need to check it out. It's got a lot of alternative information. But I think either that or the early years.
Oh, the early years, dude. As far as just photography, right? It's not a lot of information in there, is there?
No, but Abbott's got that. Yeah, it's the Abbott, and it's the white dot on the eyeball that I was pointing out earlier that they put into every single. At one point I thought it was just Gene, but then I showed you pictures of children with the fucking dots in their eyes. Like, it's pretty weird.
Nobody shot them like him, huh?
No, there was just something about it, man.
Super cool. Yeah. Also, you also got all that. I don't know if your brother's version of Alive had all that stuff in it at the time, but you got the Evolution of Kiss, I believe. Was that the booklet that came in Alive? I mean, Alive 2.
Oh yeah. You want to know something crazy too? And I'm just remembering this right now. Sorry to cut you off.
That's right.
There's a very, very good reason why Watching You, 100,000 Years, and Black Diamond on this album are not burned into my head, because I think we broke our version of Alive and it cracked. And the only thing that cracked was a piece big enough for those 3 songs to not be playable. So basically, side 2 for me started with Rock Bottom.
Let me give you applause.
In my brain, and I'm telling you right now, if I go home to Miami and find that LP, it's the same version with the broken piece because I never got rid of it, dude.
But you were still playing the unbroken portion of the album, right?
What's that?
You were still playing the unbroken portion of the record?
Well, no, I couldn't, because you couldn't. It was broken. It would just hit the needle and pop off.
So was it the whole second disc or the whole second album?
No, just the chip was just big enough to break through Watching You, 100,000 Years, and Black Diamond. So I could put the needle down on Rock Bottom, and I can start doing a full circle without hitting a crack or anything, and then it would start from there.
Yeah, you were still able to play part of that fucking record.
Yes, but only Rock Bottom to Let Me Go.
Totally what I would have done too, dude. So now
what is I gonna take? What am I, some fucking rich asshole? I can buy another fucking Kiss Alive album? Get the hell out.
So now for the rest of time, you have your own mental running track order for Kiss Alive, right?
It's the damn truth. It's another reason why that didn't get burned into my head. Those songs aren't burned in my head because it was part of that. Me repeatedly playing that album had nothing to do with those 3 songs because I couldn't play it.
Dude, I had a friend when I was a kid that was this is really assholey, dude. I went to his house. He had a brand new Love Gun, right? Which we're not talking about, but anyway, this other kid from the neighborhood comes in his room, and my friend hides his new Love Gun under a pillow, pushes the other guy onto his own album, right? Then starts yelling at his mom, "Stevie broke my album. Stevie broke my album." And what did she say to you? What exactly? Well, what he knew she was going to say, well, I'll buy you another one. So he could have 2 of the cardboard pop guns and the fucking, Love Gun, basically. So he did that on purpose in front of me, and it was really sinister, dude.
It's evil genius, dude.
I know, right? I know.
It's evil genius. Like you're sacrificing a very good album to get a free one. But the pieces that were in it won't get broken because they're made of paper. That's genius, dude.
With that being said, though, he wasn't mowing lawns to buy his records. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Isn't that how it always goes, dude?
Yeah.
100%, man.
Like you said, I would have done something like that. But
my God, that's asinine.
It's really funny though when you think about it. It's genius on the same level.
But I think, as it stands, though, that disc 1 is still disc 1 side. The first 2, the first record, side 1 and side 2 would be the case on this one. Deuce all the way to She is just, it's insane. It's insane, dude. Like, even though I might have skipped "Come On and Love Me" a little bit more than anything else because I wanted to get to "Parasite," that's really the problem. The problem with the "Come On and Love Me" was just before "Parasite," so at that point I wore out my welcome with it. I was just like,
you probably haven't listened to that song a whole lot then, because you rarely listen to. Well, you've got it on like double platinum and stuff like that, though.
Right.
But
yeah, they delivered it in other ways.
Yeah, I hear you.
As they are good doing.
But Eddie Kramer producing.
Yep.
So that's the first time since their demo that they got Kramer. They got to work with Kramer.
I'll tell you one thing though. This George Marino guy mastered all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, he was probably mastering all the Zeppelin stuff and all the Sabbath
Sterling
stuff.
Sound, New York City.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's that.
That was the place to get your album mastered in the 70s, dude.
That's where they did all four of their albums. All four of the albums we just covered were that Marino dude. That's a name I have not heard. And I guess maybe board masters and stuff like that don't necessarily get that kind of credit, like a producer or anything like that. But still, that's crazy.
Now it makes me want to go look at all the Zeppelin albums and stuff and see who. I guarantee you that guy was mastering probably 60% of everything at that time.
Wow, man.
I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he must have. Well, he probably had help, obviously. But that was the one plant that everybody seemed to go to, at least in America. And then I know he did some British stuff as well, probably.
Yeah.
But prolific, that guy for mastering.
Well, shit, dude. We did. I was gonna say we kind of ran through that, but we haven't. We ran pretty long here, but I don't give a damn. Like I said before, man, this is a discussion about the first 3 studio albums of Kiss and Kiss Alive. If you thought that was going to be packaged in a 20-minute video, you're mistaken. We are 2 lifelong Kiss fans, and we just really wanted to talk about this, and I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. Stony, is there anything you wanted to say about these 4 albums before we get out of here?
I think that to the casual Kiss fan or casual rock listener, they're not the kind of record. Well, aside from Alive, the first 3 studio albums aren't the kind of albums that will change your world in 2021. However, if you spend time with them like people used to in the good old days, but nobody does that anymore, really. But if you actually sit down and digest them and past more than one play, I think you'll find a lot of things that you like on those three albums, man. The first 3. Of course, Alive is Alive, and there's a reason. Kiss was floundering. They were on their last leg, dude. As you know, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but Alive saved Kiss, saved the record company, Casablanca, and Bill O'Coin and everybody else around them, dude.
It's insane what that one album did for so many people's lives, like just income based.
Yeah, and that goes. Who knows? I'm talking probably hundreds of people that were about to be out of a job, in 1975 when this.
It's so crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on board 100%, man. I think anybody who is who digs any sort of nostalgia, if you're a Kiss fan that became a Kiss fan later, obviously you've gone back and listened to it. But if you haven't gone back, what are you waiting on? These guys.
Some people don't follow the breadcrumbs all the way back, and I've never understood why. Now it's a totally different time than it was in the 70s and 80s, but I could never resist the trail of breadcrumbs leading back to a band I loved early work.
Yeah.
See how they got there and where they came from. And
yeah, like what happened to you? Who hurt you? You want to see all that.
Yeah, and why do you sound the way you do now? I don't understand how people have zero curiosity, but
if something is important to you, whether it's music or an actor or a car, you're going to find out about it. I think there's still this generation currently that is, in the 18 to 25 zone, still loves their music. Do I think that they look back at music that came before their music as a whole? I don't know that their generation does that anymore. I think we might be the last generation that is, considering the line of work or the body of work we get to look back on. I understand why, but at the same time, they still have the 70s, 80s, 90s, and all this that they could be nostalgic about, that I don't see it happening so much.
Yeah,
other than T-shirts on Kardashians.
You're right. I think that's a thing that's gone, and by and large, I mean, yeah, there's probably there's a few kids or younger people out there that do this.
Yeah,
it's few and far between. Probably it's definitely not the norm anymore. And when we were young, it really kind of was the norm, at least to a certain extent. You kind of want to know where your heroes developed and came from.
And I guess I say this a lot, but it's like every decade, America goes through this like learning phase where they learn what they were stupid about 10 years ago, and that's why the 60s people were smarter than the 50s, or I wouldn't say smarter, but more aware. So awareness starts getting on, and what I think is funny, you and I talk about it all the time. We are aware of all these things that have gone on in KISS, even up until this point. We start knowing that there's a rift happening already in KISS. But we are still loyal to them to this day. We just spent an hour and 45 minutes talking about the first 3 albums that started in 1974 and up to Alive, which was 75, right?
How many bands put out 4 albums in 2.5 years?
Or 4 of those albums in 2.5 years too.
I know.
Made up of stuff. And I guess maybe Rush could be in that thing where there's some bands that you can go back to their first 3 albums and be like, this is important shit. You need to hear it. This needs to be part of your set list. But it didn't always happen that way. When bands evolve, they wind up dropping deep cuts and not going back to them ever again. But KISS was about nostalgia from day one. So it was going to be a thing where if you didn't hear this one song live, if you just stuck around long enough, what their new iteration of their KISS would be, they might play that, and they might play that song for you down the road. And
they did, and they do, and they have,
Yeah,
I think they probably had. I don't want to say every concert in history they've ever done, but they played Strutter, which is on the first album, pretty damn consistently.
Yeah,
through to now. I mean. So that's a hell of a long time to keep songs in your live set, and not through a need of a lack of songs either,
That's the truth, because they could have seems like they could have just made up some new ones and it would have been good to go. But
exactly, and they did always have new ones coming out, but you always they're all good, I think, man. I mean, by and large, there's stinkers here and there.
Well, this is definitely it was definitely a great conversation, especially getting to go back and relive some of the memories of sitting in front of a record player with earphones as big as the ones that I'm wearing right now, maybe bigger, and a big twirly cord attached to my record player, experiencing what would catapult me into a life of love of music, where I'm basically listening. I have songs running in my head all the time, because that's just the way it goes when you are what we are. So thanks to everybody who stuck it through the hour and almost 2 hours that we decided to talk about these albums. But again, we just covered 4 albums right now. That's not really that bad. It took almost as long to talk about it as it did to play them, I would imagine. Well, we're going to do, go ahead.
Well, we probably would have gotten through it a lot faster had it not been for our constant nostalgic.
That is 100% why I did this.
Yeah, we're as nostalgic about it as a lot of other KISS. It's hard to talk about KISS and not be nostalgic, is my point.
Yeah, and I guarantee you right now, this podcast will not be the first podcast to focus on the first 3 albums of KISS and KISS Alive. I guarantee you there's 900 other ones, but you came here to listen to what Bob and Stony had to say about it, and we are just as much of the fan base as you are, who actually stuck around to listen to what we had to say. So thank you to that. Going forward to next week, though, we are actually starting to get into some of the stronger, hardier records from KISS. We'll be talking about Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun, and KISS Alive 2. That's starting to get into some of the more of the good shit. If I'm being honest, it was already good shit up to this point, but it just started getting better at this time. And
continuation of the good shit. Let's say
since there was a catapult from the end of Alive they were thrown into the living room of every single American, and it started leaking into Japan and other countries. And this is really when the big evolution of KISS started happening. So thanks to everyone who came to hang out with us right here on the Record Stash Revisit. Myself and Stony, thank you for hanging out. Stony, thank you for coming and hanging out, man. What time are we going to do it next week? I don't know, but we're going to revisit those records in our stash next week, and we'll get into that. So again, thanks so much for everybody hanging out. Stony,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
Bob.
telling, dude.
Thank you for letting me come on and blather on about another band I love. So always, count me in on stuff like that.
Yeah.
KISS or any other band I love. Who doesn't like to talk about music anyway?
Well, you're on the hook for next week sometime, so we'll talk about it then, man. Until then, guys, thanks so much for coming out and hanging out at the Casually Serious podcast, and we will catch you next week. Oh, yeah. Wanna make believe